Hey, I'm back. Sorry, it's been a while. I've had a busy work schedule, so I haven't been able to do much. It's the night before the big midterm election, and I just wanted to give two things. One was kind of how I'm going to vote and why, and second is implications of what I think the most important thing to come out of this election will be. So I'm sure it's no surprise to most people that watch this video. I will be voting mostly Republican, pretty much all Republican. I will not vote for a Democrat in this election unless it would be someone that I personally knew at a local level, or not necessarily personally knew, but knew them closer than anyone at the national election. And I'll get into my reasons for that. But the big reason for that, the big deal breaker, would have been the Kavanaugh situation. So let me just go through a list. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this because I think that you shouldn't be looking at someone like me and being like I'll give you my opinion on what I think, but you should be going other places to get your opinions as well. And I'm not here to try to convince you to vote one way or another at the end of the day. I do think you should vote Republican, but it's less about voting for Republicans and more about trying to show the Democratic Party that this insanity that they're playing with has to stop. So let me go through the list real quick. The first is Kavanaugh. I think that the Democrats at the establishment level, at the highest anchors of power in their party, have showed that they no longer believe in due process. They don't believe in the concept of innocent until proven guilty. They also believe that immutable characteristics such as your gender or your sex means that you're more likely to tell the truth, or we have to believe you just because you were born a certain gender or a certain sex over someone who was born a different sex. I think that's absurd. It's at the pinnacle of what they've been pushing with identity politics, and now we see a real-world example of how they plan on ending due process. It will, if this is allowed to succeed, if this precedent's allowed to continue, elections will be 10 times worse than we see now, and it'll just be a matter of who could bring up the biggest accusation at the last minute against opponents. Ironically, we see one of the accusers of Kavanaugh's already came out and said, yeah, okay, my bad, I lied, I made it all for attention. And then also, ironically, we see accusations being leveled at Democrats, such as the one being leveled at their second in the DNC, Keith Ellison, which I don't see anyone calling for FBI investigations into Ellison in the Democratic Party, even though he's credibly accused, even with more evidence, of an ex-girlfriend that says that he attacked her and physically assaulted her. Yet their standard's different than that. Cory Booker was accused by someone online anonymously. I didn't see him call for an investigation into himself, even though he demanded that of Kavanaugh. We see that with also now Mueller's been accused. Now, granted, you might say to yourself, and I haven't talked specifically about the Mueller accusation. To me, it sounds like probably a hoax. I guess we should hear it out. But the problem is, I'm consistent the whole way through. I always believe innocent until proven guilty. I'm not the heads of the Democratic Party that were saying, no, believe all women. You're guilty until innocent. You should just step down. You should demand investigations into yourself. All of a sudden, when it's people that the left like, even though Mueller's technically a Republican, technically he's establishment, which means it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. But anywho, when they like him, the Democrats like him, and with people like Menendez that was accused, or people like Booker that was accused, or Ellison, all of a sudden the standards shift. It's not believe all women, or Bill Clinton for that matter, right? So it just proves the insanity and the fact that they were willing to weaponize sexual assault allegations and not only belittle the entire process of what this country's founded on, English common law and the idea of due process and innocent until proven guilty, but they also belittle actual victims of sexual violence, and they diminish the Me Too movement, which is now going to lose steam because a few jerks wanted to stop someone from getting onto the Supreme Court. So that's my number one reason for voting Republican, and I think, again, I strongly recommend, I'd recommend that you make up your own mind, do your own research, right? But my opinion is I would recommend that no one out there vote Democrat. If you can't stomach Trump or the Republicans, vote Green Party, vote Libertarian, don't, none of the above, right? But we should all take a stance against the insanity of that situation with trying to end due process. The second reason is an extension of that, which is identity politics. It seems clear to me that this cultural Marxist attitude of trying to push dividing wedges into all of us, just separating us into groups. This is prevalent in college campuses, and now we're starting to see this be a mainstream tactic of the Democratic Party. It's always sort of been, but now it's coming to the forefront, where they're just blatantly saying, white men need to shut up. They need to step down. Look, I've said it 100 times. You've heard me say it on this channel several times. I really don't care about your immutable characteristics like your gender, your sex, your sexual preferences, your skin color, your religion, all of that. None of that matters to me. When we try to make that the focal point point of who you are, you lose sight of individuality, that we're all different and you're just lumped into certain categories, and they're trying to divide to control, to gain power. Now, look, I'm not dumb. I understand the Republicans also want power. I'm just saying that clearly, even though both sides want power, I think that it's very dangerous, the game the Democrats are playing, and we're already starting to see what happens is not only is it bad to have all these, quote, oppressed groups, but then the people on the other side of the games, the other side of the ledger, start playing the same game. So now we're seeing like a rise of extremism of white identitarians and things like that, white nationalism and things like that. It's all stupid. We need to reject it. And yeah, people will say the Democrats are trying to like laughably be like, oh, the Republicans are playing identity politics. No, they're not. Like, in the sense that they are, it's just a reaction to being told all the time, you're all racist, all white people are terrible, men are terrible, you're all low information voters, you don't have education, you're all flyover country, you're deplorables, you're bigots. Yeah, and at some point people are going to say, stop calling me that, right? But the truth is that we should reject this idea of the Democratic Party separating us in all these groups. It doesn't matter. Just because you're a white, wealthy man, and maybe you might have very similar ideas to a non-white, lesbian, disabled person, right? Like, none of that matters. Now, sure, there's a good chance that you have different ideas because you're coming from different backgrounds, but the ideas are what matter. The thoughts are what matter, right? And so this dividing us based on these immutable characteristics is just ridiculous, and it leads to conflict and doesn't lead to any good policy situations. It's leading to the divisions in the country, I think. The third reason I'll be voting Republican is because I still support Trump. The number one thing I support about Trump is that, to me, still, he seems anti-establishment. Now, I know you could say, well, how could that be? The Republicans control all the houses, or control Congress, they control most of the governorships, and Trump's the president. They control the presidency. But I still think you're seeing, like, we've never really seen a president's party, like, go after him like we see a lot of the establishment Republicans doing. Look at people like McCain, who passed away, and Jeff Flake and others that are going after him. Obama laughably says, right, like, oh, no one in my administration was ever indicted. Yeah, that's because you ran a corrupt Justice Department. You used executive privilege to make sure Eric Holder didn't get in trouble. You had your IRS targeting Republican groups, and yet no one was ever charged with that. You were corrupt, Obama. That's why. The DOJ under the Republicans are still establishment, so they want to go after Trump and his people, so that's what they're doing. So I still think a vote for Trump is still a vote against the establishment. I'm still hoping that, so far so good, at least that Trump's not got us into any major regime change war. I would like to see him do better, like not threatening places like Syria. I think we need to stop these campaigns of bombing and things like that. Focus on eliminating terrorism, but don't buy into these neocon, neo-lib, because both the establishment, Republican, and Democratic Party are the same, and they want to have these regime change wars. I'm glad Trump hasn't done it so far, and I'll continue to support him in that front as long as he doesn't. And I do think the establishment hates him. That's why you see establishment people in the intel community that went after him so hard. I'm also hoping that continued Republican, if the Democrats would win, then we're less likely to ever get to the actual bottom of what the intelligence agencies under Obama were doing to the Trump campaign. And I think that's quite possibly the biggest political scandal of my lifetime, perhaps in the history of this country. And that's something that we need to find. Because if the intelligence agencies are at the whim of a sitting president, and they could violate Americans' rights and even a presidential candidate's rights to try to stop certain people from getting elected, that's devastating, right? As I've explained before. The fourth is economics. I think that the lean toward, like, there's kind of two economic philosophies in the Democratic Party. There is this kind of corporatism, that, like, the bailing out banks and stuff like Obama did. Sadly, a lot of the Republicans are the same on this, right? The Democrats lie and they pretend like, oh, no, we're not for the wealthy, we're not for Wall Street, yet they bail them out when they get the chance. They get more money from they're getting more money from the wealthy than otherwise. And quite frankly, like, polls, all the evidence shows that the Democrats have become the party of the extremely wealthy and the people that are poor. The people in the middle tend to vote Republican more. So how is it that the Democrats try to play this game like, oh, no, we're not for the wealthy, we're against the wealthy, when almost all the wealthy, as we see in like Hollywood, tech, all those places, even a lot in Wall Street, they end up voting or donating towards Democrats. So so that's one wing, the kind of faux, we're for the people, but in reality we still just do the same thing as the establishment Republicans. And then the other wing of them is like the Bernie socialism, which is unfeasible. You're talking about every time socialism is attempted on a mass scale, the country's become further impoverished. So I don't want to see that. I think this idea of like free everything is stupid. Like, all of you should understand that there is no free anything. It comes from somewhere, and our debt's already ridiculous. It's one of the things I dislike about Trump. So I don't think we need these socialist programs. Now, I will say the one thing the socialists say that I do kind of agree with is that we have all this insane spending on military overseas. Look, I'm all for spending for the military, but we need to readjust. War is changing, right? We don't need all these bases overseas and these fronts that we're never going to fight. We need to be having a slimmer military that's more for the defense of our country and quick, rapid response attacks to things like terrorism. And we shouldn't be financing these bases all over the world. So, there's that. And lastly, I kind of already hit on was the foreign wars. So that's my reasons for why I'm voting Republican. Now, look, I have my local area. I'm not going to say exactly where I live, but, I have looked into kind of the local politicians and kind of which way I want to go. I will tell you that I am going to end up voting mostly Republican, but I did look actually into the plans of a lot of the local people. And let me just say, I think you'll find the same thing. A lot of your local people, Republicans and Democrats, tend to be far more reasonable, and they actually kind of, because they're closer to the people of individual areas, they tend to have the will of the people more at heart, I think. So, I think there's a lot of Democrats around here that would be appalled at what was going on with Kavanaugh, and they're not really for socialism and things like that. So I give them a fair hearing, but I do think I tend to lean Republican anyways on these votes. Now, I will never just vote straight ticket. I wouldn't do that. And if there are some people that are independent and things like that, I try my best to look at their platforms and such as well. So I'm not one of those people that it's just ever going to be straight, I just click the box for straight Republican. Even if I end up voting for all Republicans, I try my best to look into it. So now the real part of the video, which hopefully people stuck around for this, that I think is the most important thing, is this. Whatever happens in this election, and it is an important election, it's one of the bigger midterms, at least in my lifetime. Now, but people always say that, right? This is a huge election. I do think this one's important because the consequences of, if the Democrats win, they're basically it's going to be Russia, 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 or they're going to be going after Trump's tax returns. I just don't care anymore. And I think most Americans don't care about that. They don't seem to really have any plans except that Trump's a bad guy and we should give everyone free stuff and open the borders and things of that nature. And I think that's all bad. I don't know that the Republican, it seems like a lot of the promises the Republicans had, like repealing Obamacare, things of that nature, like actually getting the wall built, things like that, fell flat as well. So it's almost like, I'm more like, I mean, you know how it is. It's always this way, right? Politicians, make these grandiose claims and they never come through. But at least, I kind of have an idea what the Republicans are trying to do. I have no idea what the Democrats, it's like America's bad, open the borders, everyone's racist, free stuff for everyone, Trump's the worst person ever. Okay, that's your platform. I don't care. I care about jobs and people in my community and the entire country, for that matter, doing well. So I don't know what their platform is. So, but having said that, the life will go on. If you're Republican or if you're a Democrat or anywhere in between or outside of that, and you're really upset with how the election, because I'll tell you right now, I have no clue. I don't trust the polls. I'm hearing stuff from early voting favors Republicans. Now in some areas it favors Democrats. Some polls are saying now Republicans are closing the gap nationally. Others are saying that no, the Democrats are having a better chance. I don't know. But regardless how the election goes, it's not the end of the world. Your life will go on. The truth is, our individual lives are affected very little on a day-by-day basis, who's in Washington representing us. And the reality is it's because most of them aren't representing us. So when one gets exchanged for another, most of the time, nothing really happens. I mean, what's the worst-case scenario? For me as a Trump supporter, maybe they drum up false charges, try to impeach Trump, or they spend all their time looking for a stat. And my life will go on at the end of the day. I think it's terrible, and I think as an American, I'm trying my best to do what I can to help reform by voting, by talking to people and things of that, trying to keep somewhat educated on it. But life goes on. So don't flip out. Don't get super depressed. Focus on, continue to be interested in politics. It's something that I'm very interested in. But, you have a family, you have friends, you have a career, things like that. Don't get so down in the dumps where everything seems homeless. I'm seeing all this, particularly I'm seeing it on the left side, but that's just because they lost the last election, where it's the Democrats are worried if they lose again, there could be another meltdown. Why a meltdown? pick yourself up by the bootstraps, go out, win the next election. That's fine. In fact, I think that a Democrat loss, if I was someone that believed in like the old school Democratic values, I would almost be cheering for a loss, because you need to get these extremists out of your party. Get people in there that are like concerned about workers, things like that. We need a Democratic Party like that. So anyways, and the other thing is, let's say as someone who dislikes the Democrats, right? Let's say they clean sweep, which I don't think is very likely, but let's say, they dominate the Senate and the House. Like, even though I think that they have a bunch of bad ideas, and even though in fact, terrible ideas, I will still be rooting for them, right, to do well for this country. I will be happy to be proven wrong, right? I'll still go out there and I'll still support people that I want to support for the next election in 2020 and things of that nature, but I am an American before I am on a party affiliate of any kind, right? I want this country to do well. I want everyone in it to do well. I just have different ideas from some people, right? So I'm not going to hold this grudge. You're not going to see me like Bill Maher saying, I hope that when my opponents are in charge that the economy tanks and things like that. Like, there's too much of that. Like, I'll be rooting for whoever wins to do a good job. That doesn't mean that I won't try to vote against them 2 years from now, but hey, if they do a good enough job, maybe they'll get me on board. So, I think that, and we all need to have some civility in regardless of what happens, right? Like, don't get it's okay to be angry, but don't take that out on people, right? Just try better to win the next election. Mobilize people, get your voice out there, do things like that. There's just so much it's our team versus their team, and if their team wins, then I hope that everything goes to crap. That's a terrible mentality to have. So, I'll be following the election. Maybe I'll do a video tomorrow night, but I am a little busy. But, I hope the Republicans win. But again, I've given my reasons early in the video, but I think the important thing to know, for me at least, is I swear to you, if the Democrats win, I'll be cheering for them to do well. I want the country to do well regardless. I don't care who gets the credit and things of that nature. Now, I'll look into it and I'll try my best to find facts of why I think things are going well and things of that nature. I'll be happy to be proven wrong and the Democrats do good in the country, to not be engaged in any large wars, to start solving terrorism, to do better with all of the people that are poor in our country, and I hope the middle class is robust and things of that nature. I hope everyone stays healthy, whoever's in there, I hope that's the case. I'm not going to root against those things just because I don't like the party. So, all right, everyone, thanks for listening. Please subscribe and like if you like the video. I do apologize for those of you who follow me that, last week I was going to do a video with a friend. Ended up not happening because I got really busy. So hopefully that's something to look forward to in the near future. And I am going to try to start turning out more videos. I know I've been saying that a lot and then only doing one a week, but I would like to up that. My work schedule's been a little crazy, so hopefully it'll calm down here. And like and subscribe, recommend me to a friend if you like, and get out there and vote. Even if you disagree with me, hey, just educate yourself, go out and vote. If you vote against the other party, or if you vote for the party that I don't like, fine by me, So I think it's important to educate yourself, vote, and, have fun watching the results tomorrow. It'll be a good show regardless, right? So, all right, have a good one.